The Baller, a vehicle which may be the answer to some players' prayers when it comes to self-protection when driving around the streets of Los Santos. You see, when it comes to armoured cars, there's the Insurgent, which is great at defending you against explosive weapons, but isn't so great at bullet fire, and then you have the Kuruma, which is on the other end of the scale, good against bullets, but not so good against explosives. The Baller is a vehicle that crams itself right between both vehicles and begs the question, should you get one? Well, to test the Baller, or Ballers because there's actually two models, both with and without armour, I grabbed both the Baller LE and the Baller LE LWB, so let's waste no time and get to the guide. So for the sakes of protection comparison, both the LE and the LE LWB feature the exact same amount of protection to the user. The Baller is able to take one explosive weapon directly to the body and run just fine, but if it's hit by another, then it's game over for the car and the occupants inside. Rather strangely, I found that the LE model, when destroyed by a couple rocket launchers, doesn't really show that it's just been blown up by a couple rocket launchers. I mean, look at it. The thing looks pretty much ready to drive. However, the LWB, when destroyed, looks correct as the car is on fire, the body is all charred up, and parts of the car are missing. The windows on both Ballers are bulletproof, but they're not as good as the Kuruma. Here's a demonstration of how much the windows can take in damage before they become useless. I should also state that if you try doing drive-bys in this car and shoot out at people, you will ultimately damage the windows yourself, so in effect this negates the window's bulletproof properties altogether. So this works better as more of a protective vehicle rather than an offensive vehicle like the Kuruma or the Insurgent. Let's first take a look at both vehicles when parked up in a garage. The silver Baller is the LE and the gold one is the LWB. It's now I should explain that LWB stands for long wheelbase, and if it weren't for the fact that I just told you that, would you have figured out that this one is longer than the other? I found that the extra wheelbase length is attained from having a slightly longer rear passenger door than the standard model. The rear doors are so big that they're just on the verge of looking ridiculous, but thankfully they just get away with it, and as a result is a slightly longer and slightly heavier car. But we'll take a look at the LWB right after we've taken the LE out for a drive. Well, for an armoured car it's pretty fast, though it would be expected in a car like this in real life as you would be able to fit a pretty large engine inside the front bay. But besides speed, this car handles pretty darn well. Definitely passable for a good driving experience when going out and about. For a heavy car, the brakes are able to stop the car in good time, and cornering is easy enough to do some proper racing around in it. The LWB is pretty much the same as the LE model, but as stated earlier, it's slightly heavier and longer, so braking and cornering is slightly more sluggish, but only slightly. Let's see if the extra weight of the LWB makes it an inferior car to the LE model, shall we? You may notice that on the LWB screen it's lined up against an Insurgent. I think you and I both know which will win, but it's a good comparison nonetheless. So from what we saw there, there's zero difference between the straight line drag race performance of both the LE and the LWB. So if you're interested in getting the Baller, which should you get? Well, personally I would recommend that you get the LWB version, as when you buy one of these, it gives you the ability as a CEO to spawn in one of these for free instead of $5,000 every time. Granted, the Baller that the CEO abilities gives you isn't the one that you customized, instead being a fixed standard model, but it's still a good perk as this is the only vehicle of its kind that you can spawn in this way. So ultimately the question is, does the Baller fill the gap between insurgent fans like me and kuruma fans? Well, to me, not really, but personally I just like the vehicle just as a luxury runaround more than anything else. I wouldn't really use it for killing people, rather use it as an all-around performing armoured vehicle to keep me safe if for some reason I can't or don't want to go in passive mode. And hey, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the Pyrerealm Gaming channel for loads more GTA Online guides coming to you very soon. See you around!